Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of The Real Podcasters. This is a weekly podcast where we discuss all things movies, TV shows, video games and a bunch of other things in no particular order. My name's Regan as ever and I'm joined once again by my delightful co-host. It's Dan.
Hello you unobtainable kyber brick.
You just called me Jesus. Like, I know it's taken longer to start this bloody recording thanks to Lord Almighty Road Connect, but there's no need to refer to me as a plastic brick that's just hidden inside a tree on the forest moon of Endor, in which you have to do like a piano solo and crap like that.
The fact that you've even known that that was what I was referring to as well. Like, of all 1,200 or however many bloody bricks there are.
It was going to be the Endor one, of course it was.
It was going to be that one.
Yes, this week we've got a slightly different episode than we initially planned. We're going to be discussing Lego Star Wars, the Skywalker Saga, otherwise known as the video game that Dan quite publicly said and quite categorically he was never going to play last year.
Did I say that?
Yes, you did, because I started reviewing this and you were like, I'm not interested.
Oh.
Then again, you also said the same thing for Indiana Jones and the Why of Destiny, and look what happened with that one.
Yeah, look what happened there. Thankfully, this is positive.
Is it?
Ooh. No, it's absolute hunk of rubbish. It's a hunk of plastic rubbish.
Yeah, we'll see. But yes, we've got a ton of other episodes like this on the podcast. You can, be sure to check those out, available on YouTube, most of them on Spotify. I've got a few to add once again to that. And make sure you are subscribed as well, because I think there's still a fairly high percentage of listeners that aren't actually subscribed, and I'm just sat there thinking, why? Why? Because we say it every single week, or rather, as Dan says every single week, it is the cheapest way to help us out.
Like, we were kind of screwed over by the
life,
by the inflation of the Freddo, but this, nothing like this.
And
nothing like that.
And don't get me started on those godforsaken bus strikes as well.
Don't.
No, don't.
Don't.
I really don't. But yes, make sure you support this podcast in any way you can. Thank you very much for that. As said, we're going to be discussing a bit of Lego Star Wars, the Skywalker Saga. So as I said before, I did start reviewing this, I think around May last year, because it had just come out. I thought I'll just talk about it a little bit. And I think I promised at one point I was going to discuss it further when I finished it. Here we are now. We're going to discuss that, even though I finished it about a year ago. In fact, it wasn't until you said that you downloaded it, Dan, that I hadn't actually played it for months. So I thought, okay,
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'll go back to it and, figure out how far I actually got. I think I've still beaten you in terms of the amount of time spent on it, though, unless you've clocked in another 10 or 15 hours. Okay, I'm curious. How many hours have you actually clocked in on this?
I can very, very quickly check Steam and tell you how many hours.
I think it'd be... I don't know if it's funnier if you beat me on this.
I don't think I have. I mean...
well, I don't know. Mine's not a whole lot.
Okay, well, how long have you, in total, playtime hours?
2 days and 8 hours. That's 56 hours or something?
Okay, well, you're slightly ahead of me because I'm at 46.4 hours.
That really says a lot, though, doesn't it? It's
yeah.
I've had the game for a year and a half, and you're about 10 hours away from me, and you've had it for.
And I only got it a week ago.
Well, no, you had it about 3 weeks ago, I think, ish. It was 2 or 3 weeks, something like that.
I don't know. I've lost all track of time. This has really consumed my life and truthfulness.
Yeah, I am curious as to your thoughts on this, because we haven't really spoken about the Lego games or even Star Wars games. I know I tried to talk about Battlefront 2 earlier this year.
And we did speak about Battlefront 2 very, very briefly on one episode.
Well, in that you did, because the other one got canned because my audio decided it didn't want to tell people that I like the game for some reason.
So you just heard my thoughts on it.
Yeah, exactly. It was about as close as I was going to get at the time. But yes, what's your history with the Lego games? Not necessarily specifically with Star Wars, but just in general.
I mean, I can probably a better history with Star Wars one, to be honest, because I think Star Wars was probably the second Lego game I ever owned
Right.
on console. The first one was the original Indiana Jones game. And I'm pretty sure I got the second one of that, and then they were away, and then I got the complete saga, I think it's called, Xbox 360. Funny thing, when I got it from Granger Games, which no longer exists.
What a time to be alive.
I got a copy from them. The copy was naff, because, you know, it's a second-hand game store. You're going to get a copy that is going to be a naff every now and then.
Yeah.
So, ended up taking it back, and rather than get a refund, I just exchanged it for the Wii copy, because I had a Wii at the time. So I just played it on the Wii, and I know what you're thinking. It sounds like incredibly difficult to play a Lego game on Wii. It's really not, to be honest.
I mean, I don't think I ever played any games on the Wii that weren't from another console. I think the only time I can ever remember is I think I remember asking for Spider-Man 3, technically on the PS3 when it like back in the day, and my dad got us it on the Wii instead. I remember playing that for 4 minutes, and I was just like, yeah, you know what? I already hate this game on PS2. I think I'm going to hate it even more on the Wii.
Yeah. Because obviously, like, it's not controller, like, where you could buy, like, a controller for the Wii, but for some stupid reason it never worked with mine. So I just ended up using the actual remote, and it's not actually as bad as it sounds, but you don't, like, use the remote to basically move. You just basically use, like, the toggle pad thing, like the
toggle
right, left,
pad,
whatever you call it. You know what I'm on about. The dial pad. I don't even know what I'm saying. I'm full of alcohol and kebab and pretzels.
Yeah, I mean, I should stress, whenever we talk about video games, it's like the rare time where we are not experts in any sense of the word. We are borderline film critics. Not. We are borderline weirdos with video games. I don't know any of the jargon. I've got it all on the script, and I'm just like,
wing it.
But yeah, so obviously you've only just started playing this game. Obviously you've already finished it because
thanks to CD Keys, because I was not willing to pay. I think it was like 40 quid on Steam, and thankfully CD Keys is great, by the way, because you can get games that are sometimes hugely discounted. So I managed to pick up the deluxe edition for about 15 quid.
That's pretty good, to be honest.
Yeah,
and especially for what
considering,
you get.
Like, if I bought the normal game, I would have to spend like however much on DLC, when pretty much I got all the DLC with it anyway.
Mm-hmm. But okay, then, so considering this is like a few weeks in, you've already finished the game. What's your general thoughts on this?
I'm glad you asked, because I've made some notes.
I mean, few. I mean, I always hope you've made some notes on these episodes, because it would be quite difficult.
About 17. There's not 17, there's about 7.
As in 8. 7 pages or 7
6.
notes? 7 bullet points. Oh, okay. Interesting.
It's just 7 bullet points across 7 pages.
I was about to say, I can still remember people in school doing that.
Yeah, I'm not one of those people.
You liar.
This is just 7 notes on one notepad page. Not 7.
That's fine.
Okay, so general thoughts. Definitely the best Lego game I've ever played. It's one of the rare games where I've played it for the first time and I've been like, wow. The only other game that I played for the first ever time and had that similar response was Alien Isolation.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe Assassin's Creed Origins, but I think, yeah. But with this, I was just like, okay, well, I'm very familiar with the whole Lego video game thing, so I knew what I was getting into straight away.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, jeez, it's just... I mean, I started off from, like, the prequels just work, like, chronological kind of way of playing, rather than just, like, go with the original trilogy, then the prequels, then the Skywalker mess.
The Skywalker mess.
Yeah, it's a bit of a mess.
I love that as a name.
It is just ridiculously open world, and I love it. Like, it's got to be one of the most, like, brilliant. Like, who'd have thought that a little Lego game could just be so explorative? Because it absolutely is, especially when you start getting through like all the campaigns and you just have like a million other planets to explore, and there's like 1,200 bricks to collect, and then there's all the data cards. There's like everything. Like you're never ever gonna run out of. I think I saw like how long would it take you to like 100% the Skywalker Saga if you were doing a speedrun, and I saw a result. It was like 86 hours in full. That's basically get 100% if you're doing a speedrun.
That sounds about right, especially with like modern Assassin's Creed games topping around 100
Yeah.
hours, except for the new one. I think that's about 20 to 25 hours. But yeah, I think that sounds pretty realistic if it's like between 80 and 90 hours to 100% this
Yeah.
thing.
Thing. But yeah, I really like it. I mean, it's just, I'd go as far to say it's probably like the most revolutionary Lego game I've ever played, because it is just very, well, it's got great mechanics compared to the first Star Wars game, where it's like, you have like the most generic force. No, you can actually like pick up people and chuck them around if you really please, which I absolutely love doing.
I figured.
Because I'm just a psychopath when it comes to video games. I just love causing misery in the cantina. Start chucking around R2-D2 off the poor patrons.
Of course.
Well, who doesn't?
Exactly.
It's just fun.
It's...
But it is just really fun. It's just a really, really fun game.
I always get really, like, annoyed with myself whenever I hear stuff like that, especially when, like, we do this every week. Hopefully every week, depending on audio issues. Where you're, like, unbelievably positive. And there's me, where I'm like, I've got nitpicks. I don't know if it's just me.
I bet you do.
But it gets me really frustrated.
I mean, there's definitely some nitpicks, but I mean, they're probably going to be along the same lines as what you nitpicky. Because I have a couple of nitpicks, but I wouldn't say they're like absolutely to the point where it's ruining my experience of gaming.
Yeah, it's one of those things, like, it doesn't... The issues I've got don't generally ruin the experience. I mean, this is one of the few games that I did actually pre-order ever, because I mean, I do it very, very rarely. And
oh my god, the last time I pre-ordered a game was like GTA 5.
I didn't even do that, mostly because I wasn't sure if I was allowed to play it. But I think it was this and Halo Infinite were the only times where not only did I pre-order, but it's the kind of thing with the modern game where if you buy it digitally, which I did do, you can then download it before it's released, so that once it's once it's ready, immediately you can play it. Instead of just putting the disc in and just playing it. We've gone really backwards, haven't we? But literally 1 minute past midnight, and I stayed up to start playing this. Granted, I was absolutely knackered. Like, I think I finished the first level on episode 4, and I was like, no, bedtime for Regan. I mean, yeah, look, the scale of this thing is absolutely second to none. It's like, in many ways, you could say it's like the definitive Star Wars experience, but with Lego. And
yeah, basically that is the only definition of this game you need. It's the grand scale of Star Wars. ... in Lego.
Yeah.
Can't stress the Lego part enough.
And I've got to give them major props for being able to still do something fun with each film, even the 6 that they've already done. Because I didn't play the Lego Force Awakens one, because I thought, I'm not playing this when it's one film. That seems kind of pointless. And I'd always been waiting to see Episode 8 in Lego. I'd already played through Episode 9 by watching it, because it is already basically a video game with like fetch quests and side quests and DLC.
Just basically, yeah.
It's literally a video game, except you can't actually play it. The closest you can do is just press pause and then play again.
Like the only thing that film needs is just like a bunch of quest markers above the characters, and then that would be absolutely perfect.
Although I have just realised just now, this is going to be the closest, because I have now decided we're never going to discuss the films on this, because there is nothing more that we can say on any of them. This is the closest we're going to get to actually discussing the films.
And yet we're probably still going to upset some toxic Star Wars fans.
Yeah, obviously. That's just how it works.
Let's do it.
Do I like the game? Yes. Do I think it's great? Borderline. And I do mean borderline.
Oh.
But the problem is, though, I've played Lego Marvel Superheroes 1. As in, for me, that is the best Lego game ever made. It's just perfect. And it's weird how there's certain things in this that can be seen as a positive. And then because I'm me, I can always find a little flaw there. I'm like, which I'll get to. Now, I like how
God, you're
most
so
of the-
cynical.
Yeah, I can't help it. I'm sorry. You gotta love how the structure for the replayed series doesn't really work for this, such as who is the main character? Can't do that. There's about 480-ish.
Yeah,
So-
I was gonna say there's quite a few unless you really narrow it down to like each like sort of particular trilogy.
Yeah, so, we'll just kick off with the history of this thing, because there is still a bit of history, even though it's technically a brand new game. So, technically, this game had been in development since 2017, just after they announced the updated release date for Episode 9 and J.J. Abrams being brought on. Annoyingly, though, Disney wouldn't actually share any significant details about Episode 9 to the developers, so they had to do everything else first, and then finish off with Episode 9.
And then wait for 9.
Yeah. So they're working on everything else. They had a brand new game engine called NTT, otherwise known as Entity. Great.
That just all runs like something the Imperial Army has.
Exactly. Yeah, essentially. Though it was awful to work with. Like all of the game designers assumed they were going to use Unreal Engine because, of course, you would.
Yeah, because that's like the go-to thing, though, isn't it?
So after this, Traveller's Tales just said, right, okay, look, we're not going to use this engine again. We're just going to go back to Unreal. I'm like, oh, for Christ's sake. But that's why this game was delayed like 4 or 5 times. It basically did a No Time to Die and just would not release. It was supposed to come out in 2020. It didn't come out until April 2022. That's how long it took. And I'll get to some other controversial stuff that happened behind the scenes because it didn't sound like a very fun game to work on. A lot of things were promised, a lot of things were announced. Most of those didn't happen. And a lot of those classic things of, this is how many hours you're supposed to work. This is the amount of hours you're actually going to work. And we've already gone into stuff like that before. We've got other episodes dedicated to that. Reception-wise was pretty positive. As are we. I should stress, I am positive on this, even though it's starting to sound like I might not be.
I know you're kind of just hinting towards it just a little bit.
Yeah. Being the biggest Lego game launch on Steam, and the biggest Lego game launch in the UK. And then as of June 2022, it sold more than 5 million copies, or 5 million digital codes, depending on how you actually buy your games anymore. If
it's Lego, 500 million digital bricks.
Studs.
Digital Lego bricks.
Yeah, studs.
Studs.
Sick.
Why did I not think of that?
Exactly, you didn't, did you? So many praised the gameplay and the combat improvements, as well as the visuals and the vocal performances, blah, blah, blah. Others criticised some elements, such as a lot of the side missions being very repetitive and also being too tied to the movies to truly be their own thing. Which I don't think that really works as a criticism, because if you're adapting the movies, you assume they're going to be based on the movies.
Yeah, I mean, you'd really think with something like the Skywalker Saga that, it's going to be based on the movies. It's that's like the most like ridiculous criticism I think I've ever heard from a game.
Yeah, exactly. So as I joked on before, you can't really talk about a specific character in this. As I say, there's about 480.
Because there is like 400 million characters.
Well, you see, here's okay. I'm gonna really try hard to not just do. This is what we're gonna discuss. However, this is my issue. There's this thing I've noticed a lot, especially with the Lego games, is that you do have usually several hundred characters. I think this is the highest of any Lego game, full stop. I mean, it kind of has to be.
For sure. It's got to be. There is absolutely no way on earth there's anything before that is as big as this. I mean, like, yeah, there are definitely ones that are. I mean, even the like complete Skywalker, like the one before this, the saga. Well, I think it's just the complete saga. It's called. I mean, that had an absolute mountain of characters, but on this, it's ridiculous. I mean, Lego Harry Potter was another one, a ridiculous amount of characters. They just seem to get bigger and bigger and bigger. Oh, I did. I 100% completed it, and that just sounds as boastful as I want that to be. It's just sad, really.
So why is it that you haven't? I mean, you have seen the movies, haven't you? I know, I know. Like we're suddenly going on to a tangent when it comes to Harry Potter, but just for some reason, I've always thought like, why haven't we done episodes on that yet? But it's because I assumed that you weren't very interested.
I quite like Harry Potter.
Crap! I'm gonna have to update the schedule again for next year.
No, but seriously, though, like with the character issue, it seems to be every time there's a Lego game, like they just sort of make the character like selection just massive. I mean, yeah, it's fun to go and collect them all for like one achievement, but my god, is it tiring.
Well, exactly, because I think
especially
for
when
me,
there's like 100 million variants of said character. You know, it's like a Qui-Gon Jinn hooded, Qui-Gon Jinn this outfit, Qui-Gon Jinn that outfit.
You know what I mean? I think that's what actually annoyed me the most, is the fact that some of them are purely just like Anakin Skywalker.
Oh yeah, some of them are just like 2, costumes.
Cape. Or like Anakin Skywalker, episode 2, no cape. I'm like, why is that a separate character? Just take the cape off.
I'm not going to spend like 30 seconds just toggling through the different Anakin Skywalker costumes. Like,
yeah, I think.
Don't really think that they've figured that bit out clearly.
No, I think for me, I think it's just like, I don't want to say there's too many because that's a bit unfair, but there's so many that I'm never going to use. Beyond just trying to 100%.
That's definitely what I was going to say. Like, there is no way on earth, like, I'm going to spend, like, however many hours just, like, going through each character, because you only need, like, a character out of every class to really do a level in free play. You don't need, like, Greedo, and then you don't need, like, TC-14. You know what I mean? It's
always
just
need
so many.
TC-14. What on earth are you on about? I mean,
you just need
me,
a protocol
personally,
droid.
it's
Any
Zuckus.
protocol droid will do. You don't need a specific one.
Yeah, I think my favourite was the bounty hunter Zuckus, who I think was like a fly. Was he a fly? I think he is. Fly-ish.
I love the noise he makes when he gets killed.
Well, yeah, okay.
Oh my god. I love the noise he makes when he gets killed.
We haven't gotten to character death sounds yet. Mostly because all of these pale in comparison, but that is my other question. Okay, I'm actually going to reference the mumble mode thing earlier. It was going to be later on, but I just have to. So obviously this follows in line with the more recent Lego games where it's actual voice actors. They've got actual dialogue. They're not just groaning and pointing at things with the severe lack of fingers. And I've always liked that. That's really cute because it also means they really have to try really hard to actually make it really funny. And then after that, it's like just regular dialogue and stuff, which I like, especially in this because a lot of the voice actors are from like the Clone Wars and Rebels, some of the movies as well. That's a really nice inclusion as well. And they do have mumble mode in this as a cheat code. But I also think it cheats because the mumble mode also goes over the cutscenes and you've still got subtitles for what they're supposed to be saying. And I'm sat there thinking...
I'm not going to lie, I put mumble mode on like one of... I can't even remember what episode it was, mate, but it's one of those ones where, like, you know, there's a pretty long cutscene and there's a lot of dialogue in it and it's just mumbling and it's just absolutely torturous.
Yeah, I mean...
So you was... It's like, oh, God. Yeah, why did I do this?
It's weird though because I like that it's there, but I don't think it's used very well, and I don't want to say it was better in like the old days with the older version, but it was. I think it was more memorable. That being said, there is still some really funny moments in this entire game. I think. I mean, the one that always springs to mind is easily, which is the one that you sent us actually, because for some reason I had the clip saved for about a year. Didn't show it to anyone, and it's just the end of episode 1 as Qui-Gon dies, and Darth Maul just will not stop. In fact, he will continue chasing you if he's just ahead, and he'll just bat you over the head with his head.
I was absolutely buckled at the stage where, he's just... It's like the legs. He starts kicking Obi-Wan with the legs, gets rid of the legs, and then it's just the head bobbing along, and Obi-Wan just dunks it like a basketball.
Yeah. It very much reminds me of the Lego Star Wars Holiday Special, which I do kind of love quite a bit. It's annoying. It's really, really frustrating. It's a Disney Star Wars thing that's actually really good, and it's out of Lego. And there's just a moment when, like, all of the main characters of the saga are just suddenly on Tatooine about to face down each other, and there's just Darth Maul who just sort of like crawls over without his legs. I remember just crying with laughter with that. I mean, in terms of other moments, well, I really like in episode 5 when you've got the two AT-ATs that are basically just dogs.
Yeah.
They just run up to each other and are just like wagging their non-existent Lego tail. Again, I've also got that clip saved as well.
There's just so many to pick from because I got to give it to this. Like, it is absolutely hilarious. Especially when you go into it the first time and you just see something like the Darth Maul thing for the first time. Mm-hmm. It is absolutely rib-tickling. I think even just like playing the game and there's just silly little moments. Like, I mean, that same level, Duel of Fates, where you're going through and chasing down Darth Maul. And I think like after maybe the second fight, which I do really like the mechanics of the fight stuff as well. It doesn't feel as generic. It's a bit frustrating at times. But no, the Duel of Fates thing when there's just like a little lift that appears on the side and there's just a bunch of battle droids just just going along with the music and they have like a little orchestra. And I'm obviously going to push them off the edge with the Force. I mean, who's not going to do that?
So you weren't
going to
join in
nice
or
person. No, I just brutally murdered them.
To us, it's a shame that like the Lego Gamorrean guards don't like use their axes as guitars anymore in this one. Whenever there's like music playing, know. It's like, what the hell are you doing, guys? Just like give us that. This is what we actually want. Release the Gamorrean cut. No, that face. I mean, and also most of episode 9 is actually quite enjoyable because now that
episode
entire story
9 is just so much better in Lego. You don't need to watch the film. You just need to play the Lego version of it because it's just so much better.
Well, no, because now it is in the sort of like the presentation of it is how it's supposed to have been, in that it's a video game now as opposed to a film. And that's our review of episode 9. You're not getting anything more than that. I will say this though, there are some missions, especially the ones that are essentially remakes of the original games. I really hate this version of the pod race though. I really hate it.
Yeah, I really don't. I mean, I don't mind like the first person stuff because it was kind of like that with the saga thing for a time. I think at specific moments, but I really dislike it. That's probably my only big sort of issue with it. I really don't like it. Mm-hmm. Because particularly when I first played it as well, I just thought it was going to be like the third person thing like it is for the ships and stuff. But with this, it's like the only time where it's actually first person. I'm like, I don't like this at all. I just do not know where I'm going.
Yeah, it's a
like
really
the
weird...
stud's telling me to go over here, but I can't go over there. It won't let me go over there.
Yeah, it's a very weird design choice, and I really, really don't like it. I remember playing that for the first time and just being like, nah, I am never doing this again.
It's a mission that I just 100%ed on without even doing free play because I was just winging it. So I did like all the challenges, mini kits, and everything just in one go. And thankfully, I've never ever had to replay that mission because it's pretty awful.
No, luckily,
it's very disorientating.
Yeah, luckily episode 1 is 100%ed, but it was pretty easy to be honest. But yeah, I really didn't like it. I mean, it still looks really, really solid, as does the entire game. I mean, this is a very good looking game.
Graphically, it's very, very good. It's very, very well made.
I mean, a lot of this feels like the developers trying to do what the cancelled Star Wars Battlefront 3 was going to do, namely the ability to fly down to a planet.
Yeah.
Technically, you can do that. what this actually does is
Yeah.
essentially what the recent release Starfield does, in that you can't just fly like to whatever point in the planet you want to. It'll just create like a hub environment. Difference being this time is that the developers didn't technically lie about how it works, whereas Bethesda with Starfield kind of did. But I still quite like it, especially because some planets have got like 3 or 4 different places, especially like Tatooine. I think has like
Especially
3 or
the
4.
later ones, yeah, like Tatooine and stuff like that. Like, right, especially when you progress throughout the game, and obviously the different stories. You know, there's more parts of Tatooine that's unlocked, so you've actually got the ability to travel to independent parts of the planet, which I really do like.
Yeah, it is nice just roaming around. I do like the inclusion as well.
That's what I said. Like, it's just such a like explorative game, particularly when you
Yeah.
actually progress with it a lot more.
Mhm.
Because there's just like an infinite, like there literally is like an infinite amount to explore. It's just never ending, really.
Yeah.
Or at least it feels never ending.
Oh yeah, for sure. I do really like the inclusion of how if you're running around in the sand, the snow, or the mud, like characters' legs start getting like mud
Yeah,
and stuff on them.
I
I'm
noticed
like,
that and I thought,
that's
oh,
actually
you.
really cute. I like that.
Yeah, I noticed it
Um,
on the Hoth base in particular, because obviously you spend a lot of time running around in episode 5 in that
I spent so
godforsaken
much
snow
time.
globe death trap.
Well, I mostly did it just to try and help out the frightened Wampa, the poor thing.
So I haven't really got to that yet because I was just too busy
sorry,
trying to find the
spoilers.
stupid rebels that are frozen in ice for some reason. But hey ho,
Well, because most of the rebels are just idiots.
I think I've got the Wampa quest like in the like quest line thing. I just can't be asked to do it yet, so he's stuck wherever.
The poor thing.
But no, I really do like that. Like you get like dirt and stuff like that when you go in like the sand or the snow or wherever else.
I mean, in terms of gameplay as well, I mean, it's massively reinvented, like ridiculously so. So you've got like,
Oh yeah,
so you've got light and heavy attacks if you've got a lightsaber. Characters can actually block your lightsaber if you keep on pressing the same button, which
oh yeah, and it's not
It's-
just with lightsabers as well. It's just with like unarmed attacks as well. Like you have to mix it up. You can't just do the one attack.
yeah,
Like you got to kind of like create a little sort of Mortal Kombat combo.
yeah, and then even like blasters and stuff, you have to actually aim this time. It's not just like be like near a character
Yeah.
and it'll just automatically fire at them. There is a little bit more, like you kind of need to think about how you're actually going to go into a fight.
Oh,
this time
yeah,
as opposed
definitely.
to just, which I like because you kind of need it to modernize it. Even with my favorite one, the first Lego Marvel Superheroes, that one still has the same format as any other Lego game. Like this is the first time it's actually been completely revamped. You can also upgrade certain character classes as well. I don't use
Yeah.
it too often. You don't really need to because it's a pretty easy
Nah.
game to finish. You can do it without upgrading most of your stuff.
I think you only really need to do it it's just like post sort of story completion really.
Yeah, it's just one of those things, isn't
Though
it?
I must admit, like I played through it the first time and I started a new game so I could just sort of like try get as many of the Kyber bricks as possible just so I could do all the upgrades in the story rather than post, because it just feels very pointless if you don't upgrade anyway. Because it's I suppose the mechanic of the game is that like you try sort of balance it. You do a couple of story missions, you do some free galaxy free play stuff, but for me I just absolutely sped through the campaigns.
Yeah, I did. I mean, I very much sped through as much as I could because a lot of the side stuff is kind of.
Oh, it's very, very
silly.
repetitive. Some of them are just infuriating as well.
There is one.
I can't remember who on earth it is, but there was this one on Coruscant in the weird dystopian cyberpunk looking city, whatever it's called. And there's like this quest giver and it's for a character, and they literally send you halfway around the galaxy.
There's a lot
And
of
it's
that.
just like, I'm just like, why? It's like, oh, I forgot my shovel on like bloomin' Tatooine or something like that. Like, surely there is a store around here that you can buy a shovel from. Why do you need this specific shovel that has probably been eaten by a Tusken Raider?
See, I do prefer like the more passive ones, such as looking for the traveling Wookiee. I quite
like
enjoy that
the
one.
passive ones are fine, but I hate the rinse and repeat of some of the quests.
Yeah.
If it's a rinse and repeat one that I've just like, if I've done a quest and then like it's another rinse and repeat, it's just like, right, that is not getting done for like another 4 or 5 quests.
Yeah. The one that I do, I just like the most just because it's hilarious. I feel like I still feel like it's a kind of like a middle finger to people who really love The Last Jedi, such as myself. In that you have to go and find trapped porgs across the galaxy.
Oh yeah, Porg Patrol or something that's
Porg
called.
Patrol. I love that as a name, and the fact you have to listen out for them, like sort of like screaming for help. And I'm sat there thinking, oh my god, they're already adorable in the film. They're even more adorable in plastic form, and it's freaking me out. I must save the Porg. But then also one of the cheat codes is a Porg companion. Which
oh yeah, because they don't like scream at enemies or something like that.
Oh yeah, it'll scream and attack them. I'm like, yes, this is what I want. Although,
because isn't there other ones? I mean, obviously there's the Wookiee one, there's the Porg one. I'm sure there's also the one with the mouse droids with the stormtrooper helmets on.
Yeah, I think I've got one left, but I can't remember what planet is left.
Oh, I know it. That's the thing. Like, especially when you speed through, like you kind of forget about some of the collectibles, and you spend like a solid hour just trying to figure out what planet is needing completing.
Yeah, I mean, you do get kind of lost in this. I mean, I didn't know about the whole capital ship kind of system that they've got in, where like every now and again
that was
go to
quite new to me as well.
Yeah, I don't need.
It's just in certain planet spaces. I mean, I know there's like the Trade Federation,
both Death Stars as well.
Ship. Oh, the Death Stars, yeah.
For some reason.
Yeah, I was just like, well, this is new, because like I just went to the space battle encounter. That's how you know that you're going to get one, because there's like space battles you can do.
Yeah.
And you do like 3 of them, and then the ship appears, and then you take over the ship, and then if you don't have the studs for it, you can just buy it later. Because I think I went in completely blind. I was just like, oh, I'm getting a free ship here. No, it was going to cost us like 5 million studs. I was like, oh, I don't even have 5,000, let alone 5 million.
I do really like the Tannoy announcer though, who's just
please welcome our new captain. They forced their way into our ship and forced their way into our hearts.
Doesn't help though that it's the same announcer on every single ship, even the droid one. I'm like, you could have just gotten Matthew Wood to come out and do that. That's his job, isn't it? But it's really good, to be honest. I do like that, although I do have to admit, I think the best cheat code, and this is just me, is Gonk. When you turn every single just bystander or anything into Gonk
every
droids.
NPC just turns into a Gonk droid.
I can remember sending you a video of that. I think it was on Geonosis. I think when there was supposed to be like 1 million Geonosians, and I was like, this is prime time to turn them all into Gonks. And I can just remember your reaction being like, Regan, what the hell have you done? I'm like, I have become Gonk. It is gonking time.
Remember, you've just been pranked by the Prank Patrol. No, you've just been gonked by the Gonks.
Prank Patrol. Oh my god.
You've just been gonked by the Gonk Patrol. Gonk.
Gonk. Just sort of like end goal of my life is to get a Halloween costume that is just a Gonk droid. And just walk around like that.
Gonk.
Gonk.
I mean, you'd go and be at an absolute snail's pace unless you had, like, super Gonk droid activated.
I mean, yeah, that is
when they go like 1 million miles an hour, just
I mean, just like screw all of the cheat codes in GTA San Andreas with like creating tanks and hydrojets. No, turning everyone into Gonks and becoming a super Gonk is just. But then also, I think the funniest one is the fact that you can find there's like a Gonk droid side mission, and one of them is. Once you complete it, you get a giant Gonk droid as like a ship, and it looks ridiculous. Like I was on it a couple of days ago, and I showed it to my girlfriend because for some reason I hadn't shown her that bit. I was like, hey, just look at this, and she just turns around and she sees a giant gong choice. I don't know what the fascination with like the gong droid is. It's so weird. It's just such a stupidly designed, like it serves no function beyond looking ridiculous. And yeah, it's just the perfect like I've even got on the script, gong mode is god tier.
It is.
It really is. That being said, I think my biggest issue with this game is actually the one thing that they announced was going to be in it and then it wasn't, is character customization. That was supposed to be in it, and that's always something I've loved. Even in the more recent games where you kind of have to create your own character anyway, like Lego DC Supervillains, the main character is one that you create, and you just get a bunch of superpowers from who you unlock and stuff, which I think that's a neat idea. And let's face it, doing like character customization in
I'm
like
sure
old school
there's a
Lego
feature
Star Wars
like
was...
that. I mean, there's definitely no character creation, but I'm sure when you get like 100%, you basically just unlock like essentially God mode for the character you're playing as.
And
like you have every ability.
Yeah, it isn't. It was supposed to be in the game, and I can't remember what planet it is, but there is evidence of a couple of empty Bacta tanks with like sort of like unfinished character models in, and that's supposed to be where you're supposed to customize them. I can't remember where it is. I think it might have been on Hoth, possibly, or maybe on Tantive 4, maybe. But they were always supposed to put it in, and yet even here we are in like October 2023, like a year and a half after the game's release, and it still hasn't been put in. And I'm just like thinking, you've got 480 characters. The wealth of opportunities to do with that, like. It would have been brilliant. And
The
we don't
what
have
if scenarios you could create with that.
I'm picturing it. It sounds hilarious. Porg with lightsaber. Gong droid with lightsabers. Gong droid or Porg with General Grievous's arms.
Hello there. Gong, 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 gong.
Gong, 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 gong. I'm picturing it and it sounds oh, so that's why we haven't got it, is because we're not allowed to have that sort of thing.
Yeah, they listen to stupid people like us and they're like, yeah, that's a terrible, terrible idea.
Yeah, it's a terrible idea. A little bit. Yeah, that's something that I'm so disappointed isn't in there, because it's such a nice thing to have, and yeah, here we are. I mean, Lego is designed to be customized, and this game doesn't have that. Kind of defeats the point, but that's just me again really, really nitpicky. I should stress, I still really like the game, and I'm proving that by nitpicking again. I mean, in terms of multiplayer as well, there's no online co-op, which is it's such a weird thing to not have in a modern, like, big title like this.
Yeah, I would have thought that it would have been online co-op for sure, but I guess it's a shame.
Oh no, anyway. I mean, like, I know there's like a split screen mode, but I haven't used that, to be honest. I mean, I've never been a big fan of the more modern games doing split screen. I mean, I do find it quite funny when you do it on...
split screen is a very, like, sort of outdated format, I think, because it's just...
Wow, Dan.
Especially on modern TVs as well. It's
well, you say that, but that feels like it'd be spot on, especially considering that most modern TVs are a lot bigger than they used to be.
Yeah, I suppose maybe I just grew up with, like, you know, playing split screen an awful lot, so I'm just sick of the sight of it.
I did like in the first Lego Marvel Superheroes, where, I mean, the game was actually quite well designed, so that if you did do split screen, and because you're playing across the entirety of, like, New York, well, Manhattan, I suppose, one character can be at one side of the city, and the other one can be on the other. It's not like...
I'm pleased with, like, they got rid of that stupid tether.
Yeah, I mean, this technically
that was
has it
so
only...
annoying. Yeah,
I mean, this one technically has it, but only because you're on hub worlds anyway, so it's a bit difficult to go very far anyway. But as I say, I didn't really do much of that, so I can't really speak too much on the multiplayer side of things, other than I do kind of wish there was an online mode like involved in this. I think just like randomly jumping on someone else's mission, I think would have been quite hilarious. That being said, I think it's still not done very, very well, because I think the one I remember the most was actually with episode 3, with the fight between Anakin and Obi-Wan, where
Yeah.
It's not like the old version of the game where if it's 2-player, one of you can be Anakin, the other can be Obi-Wan. You're only Obi-Wan in this, and
Yeah.
player 2 can only watch essentially. So I think someone sort of like logged in as C3PO, and he's just on like a hovering thing, just like watching
Yeah.
everything happen, and he can't do anything. I'm just like, what the hell's the point in having a
All
second
he can
character
do
if
is
you can't
just
beat
pace
the
back
hell
and
out of him?
forth on that silly little craft.
Yeah, he's just got
That silly
absolutely
little
nothing to
thing
do.
on the lava. It's just like, oh, well, I can just twiddle my androidy thumbs here.
But yeah, as I say, it's not really something that I do very often. I mean, as I say, I barely like do co-op stuff with people anyway. Only on Halo with you though, when I want to traumatize myself, which we're still gonna have to at some point before December rocks up, even just for 5 minutes, just to be sure. But yeah, I mean, similar to the previous games, it's a bit difficult to talk about multiplayer with this one because there's not really anything of that.
No, there's no
of.
like real multiplayer features.
Yeah, which seems a bit weird for a Lego game. Again, they always pride themselves on being like very, like anyone can pick up and play it. It's pretty easy. Whereas now it's not really so. It's weird. I mean, again, I don't want to keep on saying like, oh well, the older games are better, because in a few ways, this one is way better. Obviously, it's technically far better done, visually as well, and obviously there's a far greater amount of things to do. But again, for me, it was just like little nitpicks I've got that just built up again, and I could then remember why I stopped playing it for so long. Might have just been because like I burned myself out on too much Lego, frankly.
It's too much Lego.
Well, as I say, like, well, it's 56 hours. For reference, I think like something like Assassin's Creed Odyssey was 100 hours more than that. So I'm reaching. I'm getting there.
Yeah, you're getting there. You're getting there.
160
I kind of
hours
wish,
in like ancient Greece.
What I missed about, I think for some missions in particular, like with the older game, the complete saga, you had a lot of like, I mean, even in episode 3, the start of episode 3 obviously starts off with Anakin and Obi-Wan heading to General Grievous' ship through numerous battle droids and stuff like that. Now, this game just skips out all of the battle and just cuts straight to the ship, which I don't really mind to an extent, but I kind of want that battle thing because it was just very fun in the old game.
Yeah, there's very weird changes that didn't really need to be there. Like, it's one of those things where it's like, I don't want them to just do the exact same mission again, but those ones were so well done.
I also noticed that they skip out what they consider like, you know, the quite boring stuff. I mean, the stuff with Anakin in particular. Like, I think in the old game, like, there was like a whole quest where you basically go find Anakin, you do whatever the hell you need to do. But with this one, it just cuts straight to the pod race, which I'm like, yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Because it's pretty boring.
Yeah, it's just one of those things where it's like, I think the developers knew they couldn't improve on something, so they either just do a complete 180 and make it even worse, race, or you just turn it into a cutscene for the sake of making jokes about the battle droids being stupid again. Which, you know, I mean, like, the happy retirement one is quite funny, to be honest, but only because...
I do laugh at that one quite a lot.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys, so much.
I didn't think I was going to make it. Ah!
You know, all you see is just a ship just absolutely kamikaze the entire birthday table.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think some of the humor still works better in the older one. But again, I think it's just because I'm still really used to like the mumble mode just by default, and version of comedy just works really well. Because it was just purely visual. But again, that's me getting really, really annoyingly nitpicky. Because I get why people really like this one. I totally get why you do. As I say, for me, it's not quite my favourite. I think it's just, there are just weird design changes that I'm not big on. Some things that just got removed that
I think the biggest nitpick I have is definitely the side quests. I mean, they're just awfully repetitive.
Especially because I think I'm on like 530 bricks. And I've still got like another 700 to go, and I'm like, oh, come on.
The first playthrough I did of it, just to like, in preparation for this episode, I think I ended up with like 739 bricks.
So I've been playing this thing for like a year and a half. You've been playing it for 17 minutes.
Yeah, I had like all the mini kits, like 90% of the level challenges done. True Jedi on every level.
I'm furious.
Like 3 or 4 planets totally complete.
Yeah,
less than half of the data cards.
Yeah, I was going to make a joke about completing Kajimi 100% because you can't actually go on the planet outside of a mission in episode 9 and that's it. You can only fly sort of like near it and nothing more. I was started thinking, why the hell is Kajimi getting the short straw? It's a pretty interesting looking planet, to be honest. See, just like out of spite, I would have taken one of the most popular planets in the entire saga and they could just be like, oh wait, sorry, you wanted to go on this planet? Oh. All right, okay. No.
You should have just done that with like Coruscant. Like every goddamn story just ends up on Coruscant.
You know what it is? I think I've realized why I burned myself out on this game. It's because I stayed on Coruscant and just I got all of the stud counters. Yes, yes, I stud farmed for hours on end, and now I've got like 5 billion studs, and I'm like, I can't do anything with them. I cannot unlock anything else currently because I have to go to Tatooine and talk to this random blue creature for 3 minutes, and and oh no, he wants some flowers for his dearly beloved. Please go to Mustafar.
I'll tell you what, one of the codes that absolutely saved my life was especially with the side quest, because obviously when you speak to like a different species and you're like, you know, a human character, you can't understand what they're saying. So there's a code that basically anybody can understand each other. It's a universal translator or something like that it's called. I was like, yeah, I'm buying that because I am sick of going to planets and just being disappointed by the quest giver when he's just talking a load of gobbledygook.
Yeah, and then there's like pew pew mode and there's baguette lightsabers and there's
comedy weapons
as well. Funny. I like that. Yeah, again, there's a lot of really good stuff in this, and it's certainly nice talking about it for sure. I still just worship at the altar that is Lego Marvel's Superheroes 1. That one is just like perfect, frankly. And one of the only games I've actually ever 100%ed, because this is never getting 100%ed. It's not possible.
I think it's going to take an awful lot of time. I mean, I kind of just like chip at it like for an hour or two a day. But that's all it. Like I mean, I've played it like for 7 hours some days. I'm just like, damn, I'm burnt. I'm done.
Yeah.
Especially when you go on like a whole thing of doing the mini kits as well, and it's like, yay, I've done
the
a level where all mini kits.
Yeah, the mini kits aren't nearly as interesting in this one. It's annoying, but that's
you only really used when you collect them all, and obviously you can like change ship. You can only really like use them for that, and it's just like a little like Star Destroyer or something like that. That's about it. That's the extent of it.
Yeah, as I say, I think it's just mostly just a few nitpicks for me. Otherwise, I do really like this game. I do, and I will continue to stress this right up until the end, because it sounds like, you know what I hate about Lego Star Wars, the Skywalker
You know what really
mess.
grinds my gears?
It really grinds my gears. I was hoping not to do a Family Guy reference in this, despite the fact they did like the god tier that is their own version of the original trilogy. It's just beautiful.
something dark side.
All of a sudden, maybe that's how we talk about them. We just review those.
Yeah, I mean, they'd be brief.
The time of my life. Anyway, I think we've said everything we can say about Lego Star Wars again.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dan's very, very positive. I'm also very positive. I promise.
I promise.
But yes, thank you
maybe
very much.
just say that like a couple more times as we wrap this up, just to, really cement the idea that you do in fact like this.
I do. I promise. I played it for 2.5 days. Trust us, I like it. See, because if I don't like it, I'll just stop playing it entirely. Looking at you, Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Anyway, yes, that is our thoughts on Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga. So thank you very much for listening. Really do hope you really appreciate it. As I say, we've got a ton of other episodes like this, especially with our replayed segment. We've done really well this year to review a lot of video games, which we promised to ourselves at the end of 2022, where we reviewed 2. Next week, though, is where it gets slightly interesting, because we haven't got a regular episode of the podcast for a few weeks, because me and Dan are actually going to be in person. We're going to be at Tyneside Cinema this time next week. Hopefully, depending on bus strikes. I bloody hope so. There's going to be a Halloween season all-nighter at the Tyneside Cinema, so I'm still not sure how we're going to do it, but there's going to be some sort of episode that we do. It might end up being closer to a mini-sode, because we will be tired. I will be full of coffee,
Yes.
Dan will be full of Monster Energy drink or whatever crap he drinks.
Just very, very caffeinated beverages. It's not even Monster at this point. It's just whatever cheap shit is just on offer in a shop.
We did so well to not swear once in this episode yet, and there you are at the very end, just like a cheap shit. It's cheap shit, you know.
Well, you could always just bleep it.
I don't bleep this shit.
Exactly.
But yes, you can look forward to that at some point next week. But thank you very much for listening. I do hope you enjoyed it, and until then, it's goodbye from Dan.
Goodbye.
And it's goodbye from me. Goodbye.